Hey everybody, Hellcrex here, and welcome to Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere. And today we're going to be talking about the Warhammer. Yes, the Warhammer. We haven't talked about this thing in 3 years. Yes, we're delving back into it now that it is 3050 and we have some good technology to throw on this thing. And basically we have to go look elsewhere because it's no longer in the 3050 book because it's, well, that seen, unseen, re-seen, unseen, the story of all the old favorite mechs of the old days. Now, Warhammer, still 70 tons. It is a 460, has 18 heat sinks, has only 160 points of armor, and still carries around the same old weapons with the 6R. We still have the two PPCs, SRM-6, the 2 medium lasers, we got the 2 small lasers, and the 2 machine guns. And I kind of talked about it way back in the day. It's like I always look at it as a kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. It's a fire support mech that's capable of going into a city and rooting out infantry if they come close. You know, that the old story that goes with it, you know, because you're using machine guns. Small lasers for up close personal type of stuff. It's not really something that's great at anything. You know, just put it bluntly. I love the mech. I like how it looks. It's iconic. But it could always been better because, well, you know, systems are, you know, really short range on this thing. Now, over the years, there's been a few dabbling with it, how to use it. You know, individuals like looking at it and go, well, okay, I'm going to use it this way. Yep, that works in kind of a narrow niche. I want to use it this way. Well, that can work in a narrow niche. It's, you know, if you're, like I said, if you're out on an open battlefield with lots of range, those PPCs do wonder for you. You know, they work good. You know, it's a really good system, so it can fall into the role of a fire support mech. Now, the biggest problem with the Warhammer is it's, I think a 217 is the max amount of armor, and it only has 160, so you're looking at 57 points of armor that it's short. So it could be a heck of a lot better. And you have some systems on board that maybe you could steal from to improve that in the future. But if you move this thing into a city fight, it can be wandering down streets, and if infantry are around, yeah, you can unload on them. If somebody happens to come around a corner of a city block, yeah, you got some short-range weapon systems to work with. But overall, in my opinion, this mech is carrying around a lot of weapon systems that are so short-range that it doesn't get to use them very often. So I prefer not to have them in the first place. Now, there are some versions of this mech that came out in later years. You know, it's a mech that the states all wanted to keep around and use. You know, because they had a lot of them in their arsenal, and they're either continually to upgrade them to bring them out on the market, or, you know, just keep them in their lineup. You know, there was a few, I think I've talked about a few of them in the previous video. Let's see, we got the one that comes to mind, I think it's the 8D here, came out in 3066. It uses Indo Steel, which is great, still has the 4-6 movement. It has 17 double heat sinks, which I think is probably, in my opinion, just a few too many, or one too many. It has the 2 ER PPCs, and it has some ER medium lasers, and then it has 2 ER small lasers and a Streak 6, which is arcade. That is a upgrade I could go with. You know, if you're going from, can I keep the SRM on there, go with a Streak 6 when it's available. And then it has a C3 slave on board, which is great. And it also has a half ton of case on board to, you know, because you got that Streak ammo that has a potential of going up if it gets hit. Okay, so this is one of the versions of the mech I really like when the time comes around in 3066. So there's some good equipment on board on this one, so it's not bad. I've used it many times in different games, and if I'm going to use any of them later in life, I prefer the 8D. It's a nice version of the mech. Then we have the 8D2. This is the Dark Age, and that's replaced the Slave and the S-Arm Streak with a boosted C3 Slave and a Thunderbolt 5 system. I'd rather keep the 8D personally. Rather have that one. And let's see, we're moving on to the 8K, which is in 3073, which has the ferrofibers on board. And then it has the heavy particle beam weapons. Yep, there we go. And it has the a Streak 4 with case, 17 double heat or 16 double heat sinks, and a C3 Slave. So it has some of the good stuff that comes with it, but I'd be personal. The heavy weapon there, I've never been a fan of this. Like personally, I'd rather just keep an ER PPC myself. You know, get the range out of it, get some good uses. And then we have the 8M, which came out in 3069. This has a 2ER PPCs, okay, as well as a light Gauss rifle. Okay, you're putting on a ballistic weapon on this thing. That's a bit of tonnage, and I prefer not to have a light Gauss weapon if I got the PPCs. And just personal choice. And it has 2ER medium lasers, and it has 12 double heat sinks. Not good. Okay, but it did increase the armor by 3. Yay. Never been a fan of that one. Okay, then we have the 9D, which is come out in 3067. Indosteel XL engine. And it has a target computer with the 2ER PPCs, 2ER medium lasers. Yeah. This has 3 jump jets, so that just by putting the XL engines on this thing is not something that gonna be a fan of. Never. Okay, then we have the 9S. This came out in 3067. Has the light fusion engine. Okay, if you're gonna put an XL engine on something, put the light on. You're getting a little bit of tonnage savings, but you're not going to be one-shot kill if you lose a whole torso type thing. That's at least you got that much going for you. So if you're going to put an XL on, put the light when it's available. And it has 2 additional heat sinks, which are now doubles, and it carries 2 ER PPCs, 2 ER medium lasers, a Streak 6 launcher. So it's kind of taking the stuff of the 8 and adding in a little bit extra. You know, so there you go. So that is kind of the few of them that you're looking at. Now, if you want to really talk about what I prefer to doing, now if you get the 6R and you want to upgrade this thing to modern technology of the 3050 era, I have many times basically done this. You know, I will drop the machine guns, drop the small lasers, and drop some heat sinks, and then put some doubles. I always said the biggest thing you can ever do for a mech is give it double heat sinks when they're available. Is that, you know, you're looking at the number of tonnage. You got 18 heat sinks wrapped up in, that's a lot. And if you put them in doubles, you're talking 36 heat you can dissipate. But do you necessarily need to dissipate that much heat? You look at what you're going to do with your weapons. And I always like to look at my weapon systems into firing blocks. It's like, this is going to be shooting at this range, this will shoot at this range. And it's like, okay, do I necessarily need all that heat disposition? So dissipating. So there you go. So I always go with 2 ERPPCs. That's just a standard thought process in my book. It's like, hey, it's a great swap. You're not adding any tonnage. You're not taking away any tonnage. You're just swapping out your 2 weapon systems. So you're looking at 30 heat that you're pumping out right there. So, okay, so I need to dissipate at least 30, and I got 18 heat sinks. So if I double these, I don't need 18. I can drop this thing down to 16, dissipate 32. So if I'm running and firing both PPCs, most I'm creating in heat is the 32. So there you go, 16. That gives me 2 tons to play with. And then I will look at, it's like, how many crit slots do I have left now? Oh, I got a whole bunch of them. I have, what, 20 something left. I'm going to turn around and give this ferrofibrous armor. That's a logical transition. You don't have access to an Indosteel chassis yet because nobody in the factory is producing them. So do the next best thing. Give it Indosteel. Well, I just gave myself 2 extra tons. Well, I'm going to give myself Indosteel, not Indosteel, but ferrofibrous with 2 extra tons of armor. Hey, I can pump this thing up to, what, 215 points of armor pretty quickly just by adding a few more tons. So you're looking at going from 160 with ferrofibrous up to 12 tons gives me 215. Hey, what's not to like? You know, that you just turn yourself into a pretty decent mech. You're only short by 2. That's, you know, that's a half ton. Why spend the tonnage on 2 points of armor? You know, it's like getting 2 points of armor for a half a ton. No, I'd rather use it someplace else. Okay, so now you got 16 double heat sinks, and you're now sitting at 2 choices here. You have the SRM-6 to either put on board, leave it there, and then you have your 2 medium or 2 small lasers and two machine guns. Well, the machine guns and the small lasers are going to get ripped off. It's like, I'm sorry, they got to go. So now you have a couple choices here. What are you going to do? So you could have a mech with 2 PPCs, ERPPCs, a SRM-6, and you have the 2 medium lasers already. You could go this route and replace those machine guns and those small lasers for medium lasers. So you can just add a couple more medium lasers, replace the small lasers with medium lasers. It's just energy weapons replacing in the same slots. So there you go. So you could have that route. All right. Now, what I have done in the past is gone with, it's like I'm looking at how I'm going to use these things if they're going to be part of a maybe long range raiding force, city fighting. I have done this. This is kind of something I've done, is take off the SRM so I don't have to worry about ammo at all, and replace it with 4 jump jets. So now I'm a 464. So now I will have a mech that has 5 medium lasers, 2 ERPPCs, and it's a 464. So it's mobile, can move around in a city fairly decently. And yeah, so it's not fast by any means, but it's a 70 tonner. So, you know, to kick it up to a 5, you know, that's not going to work out very well for you. That's a lot of tonnage. So that's where eventually, if you wanted to have maybe a 585, look at the light XL engine when it's possible, and you might go that route. That is a thing you may think about. But at the moment, we're just upgrading what is a current succession war type mech with something with better weapons. So now you have a mech with 5 medium lasers and those TPPCs. So when you're closing, you can fire the PPCs, not heat up, even if you run. When you get in close, when the medium lasers are in range, they pump out 15 heat themselves. So you can shut off one PPC, you can fire an ER PPC and 5 medium lasers and still run cool. All right, so range banding yourself, and it works out pretty good. Now, if you have the one with the SRM, the SRM is going to maybe cause you some heat. So if you get in close, you may have to not fire. Well, you're not going to fire one of the PPC. So so if you walk, you're going to be going up on the heat scale or enough to balance yourself out, and then the next turn probably not fire something to cool off a bit. So that's something you got to look at, is balancing your systems out so you're not sitting there frying your pilot in the sauna bath. But that's some of the thought process I have when it comes to upgrading this mech. Now, if you do get it eventually, the version where you have the Endosteel variant, one I have done many times in the past is gone with the Streak 6. You have the Streak 6 case, medium lasers, and the PPCs. So basically still running with the 16 heat sinks. About the only difference is that you have a Streak 6 instead. So it's a kind of a fire and forget type system. So if it fires, you go up on the heat. If it doesn't fire, well, you don't worry about it. So you still stay well balanced. Now, there has been, what was I going to say? A few other things that go with this, but overall, it's not a bad mech. It has a lot of capabilities to be upgraded in the 3050 era, and unfortunately, it's not in the 3050 book. But you know, we can work around that. It still exists, even though they don't like to talk about it. Interesting, right? All right, hope you guys like it. Like and subscribe, share with all your friends, and we will see you in the next one. Hellcrix out.